I spent some time wondering what story this video should be telling. Is it about how much fun touring on unicycles is? No, that's been done in other videos. Is it about the great group of riders on this tour? No, but it was a great group anyway. Instead, it's about a great series of cycling trails in New Zealand. We began with the Alps to Ocean Trail, starting at Aoraki and finishing at Oamaru. Then we rode through Dancy's Pass to Naseby to access the Otago Central Rail Trail. The first SINZ tour began with the Otago Central Rail Trail, and 10 years later it is still a great ride. Instead of veering west at Alexandra, we continued straight ahead onto Roxburgh Gorge Trail, which then feeds you onto the Clutha Gull Trail. Well, that gives us a lot of great footage. Let's get started with the Alps to Ocean Trail, which is worth a trip to New Zealand on its own. These views behind me are really impressive. They're every bit as good as the Annapurna Mountains looked in Nepal 2 years ago. These are a lot easier to reach and they're lower down, so riding's going to be a whole lot more fun. But a few minutes time, everyone's going to be jumping on and we actually start riding the Alps to Ocean Trail. Now the Alps to Ocean Trail begins at Aoraki, otherwise known as Mount Cook. So we started our ride by going for a walk and looking at the glacial melt.
Oh, Diesel doesn't talk.
Really?
No.
He's going all shy?
He's a penguin. He doesn't talk.
Diesel, it's really great to have you here. Where's your wheel?
Oh.
Okay. You reckon you can keep up? We're on one wheel, you're running.
No, he's getting a ride with Ken.
Oh, he's getting a ride with Ken.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, well, we'll see you at the helicopter, Diesel. The glacial stream comes into play immediately you start riding, because you need a way to get across.
Hello, Shaw! And this tour starts!
Fortunately, the local helicopter service is happy to assist.
Alps to Ocean, first 8 kilometres done. With this as our backdrop.
You can do a short 3-minute flight across the glacial stream, or you can pay a bit extra and upgrade to a trip up and onto the glacier, followed by disembarking on the other side. Which option do you think we chose? A number of us here in New Zealand had also joined in with the unicycle tour of Nepal in 2015, so views of mountains with snow and ice were not entirely new to us. The question is, can you have too much fun playing around on glaciers? I really don't think so. Yes, it was only a short time spent on top of the glacier, but it was well worth the money. Why get so close to the glacier without having a proper look? Anyway, it was now time to return to our unicycles and resume riding. Now things became a bit more interesting. The ground was mostly rocks and pebbles, which could have been easy enough to ride. However, the headwind did make riding difficult. The arrival of an afternoon storm, coupled with a flat tyre for Danny, also added to the entertainment. Well, after the wind and storm as we finished our first riding day yesterday, this morning dawned clear. This meant Lake Pukaki looked glorious as we ate breakfast and prepared for liftoff. We were still riding on gravel road that resembled an egg carton in terms of corrugations.
Getting lots of photos. Oh, we're nice and happy.
Unicycles do not have suspension, so it felt a bit like riding around the lake on jackhammers. How's it going?
Oh, I'm scared.
No.
Yeah, yesterday I had cramps.
Oh.
But today I feel better.
Yay!
When we reached the power station, the gravel ceased and we enjoyed a bit of smooth bitumen for a change. But not for very long. We soon encountered a sign, the trail is well marked, which directed us off the bitumen and onto some smooth flowing gravel trail following the edge of the lake. There were even some patches of concrete. By now the sky was clear and the sun was out. Lake Pukaki has never looked better. After morning tea, we set off on some more gravel trail, heading across mostly flat terrain towards Twizel. It doesn't happen often, but on this smooth, open, flat section of trail, we had a strong tailwind, so the ride to Twizel was a heap of fun. After lunch at the salmon farm, we resumed riding. This next section was a bit of a transit section, following the service road along a water canal. It was hot in the sun, but it was fast riding heading towards the dam. Now the word storm returns to the story. We'd been watching some cloud build-up directly in front of us for a while, and it had become increasingly obvious that there was an active storm where we were heading. I'd been riding with Natasha for a while now, and we decided to stop pausing for videos and photos and see if we could beat the storm to the finish point. The trail helped us with this because it was again mostly flat and smooth and wonderfully suited for a high-speed blast around the lake. In the end, the storm moved away and we only caught the rain at the edge. Unbelievably, as we approached Ohau Lodge, the clouds cleared again and we arrived in sunshine.
Hello, we are going.
The defining feature of the third riding day was heat. The trail headed away from Lake Ohau and up over a small mountain pass. Yes, it was only a small climb, but in the heat, it was enough. There were a few small patches of trees to give some respite from the heat, but they did not last very long. When I arrived at the top of the climb, I found another group of cyclists having a rest. This group consisted of 4 cyclists plus an accompanying tour guide. The youngest of the 4 cyclists was over 60 years of age. The oldest cyclist was mid-70s.
Is the highest point. Female, he's very strong.
No,
Oh.
I've made nothing.
I spent about half an hour at the top chatting with them before we all decided to resume riding. Unfortunately, I did not think to whip out the video camera and record a roadside interview. However, the overriding message from today is this: if you are under 80 and can ride a bicycle, then you can also ride the Alps to Ocean Trail.
Yeah.
We had a rest stop where the trail emerged at the end of Quailburn Road. From this point on, we were once again riding on gravel public roads. However, the lack of traffic made it seem more like a mountain bike trail.
Hey.
Unfortunately, the weather was very unusual for South Island, New Zealand, and the temperature was continuing to climb. So instead of riding along in the usual manner, it became a series of hops from one patch of shade to another. We had a late lunch at the Clay Cliffs, then finished off the last few kilometres to Buscott Station. This included a few kilometres of bitumen, which seemed unusually shiny, and in fact almost wet. I realised after a while that it was so hot that the bitumen was starting to melt. It was in fact a good day to be resting and not riding in the hot sun. I don't want to bore you with a blow-by-blow description of all the great scenery. You should realise by now that we were riding on great trails and enjoying great scenery. Yes, it was hot in the middle of the day, but we spent plenty of time relaxing in the water as well.
I will never ride in Brisbane if it's so hot.
This is cool! This is one of the advantages of cycling around a lake, after all.
It's just so weird.
Well, I like missing a header.
Remember the group of old cyclists I'd met on the pass on the second day? Well, they kept leapfrogging us on the trail since then.
Smile for the camera.
We saw them in Oamaru on the rest day, celebrating themselves in a cafe.
Alps to Ocean cycle trail. 301 kilometres from Aoraki to Oamaru. That's not 300, that's not 300.2, that's 301. And don't we know it. It's taken us 5 days since we started the trail up at Aoraki, and we've now reached Oamaru. Along the way I saw a newspaper clipping that said the Alps to Ocean Trail is in the top 16 of cycle trails in the world. I don't know what the other 15 are, but this was pretty good, so I'm not surprised. We've had everything from the glacier at the start all the way to beautiful lakes, some beautiful downhill uni runs, and rail trail. It's actually been a total adventure and it's been really good fun. One wild card that hit us from the blue was the unseasonably hot weather. The third riding day we were all fighting heat exhaustion. We were on dirt trails. We finally made it onto some bitumen for the last few kilometres till our stop at Buxton Station. And would you believe there was tar melting on the road? Just how hot was it on the road while we were out there trying to ride? I do not know. But anyway, we've made it here and there's some very happy riders relaxing now.
When we had our rest day at Oamaru, we were asked a few times where we were heading next. When we answered Dancy's Pass, we received a very odd reaction. Something like, "Are you sure?" So yes, we did a bit of climbing. Then we had this nice downhill run on gravel road into a lush green valley. Nothing to complain about here. Then we arrived at another gate. You mean that wasn't the pass? Now we discovered the truth and developed a deep personal understanding of the 935-metre altitude at the summit.
I find it very refreshing. I think what Ken wrote, you know, nice climb over Dancy's Pass, I agree wholeheartedly. It's exactly my idea of a nice morning stroll on the unicycle. I'm so happy, I just want to go jump off that little precipice over there.
It was described as a nice pleasant climb over Dancy's Pass. We now know why all the locals gave us really strange looks when we said we were going to ride over Dancy's Pass. But the good part is, we're at the top now, it's downhill. The fun begins.
Mind you, some riders do enjoy the mountains.
So the attraction for you is the mountains or is it the riding?
Riding into the mountains. I love the mountains. I love my bike. Both. It's spectacular.
I'm not doing this.
Yes, Gaetano.
Oh, fatta tutta!
Yes.
Senza furgone sul giro.
Danny. Yes, Thomas.
All right.
Yes. Great appeal. Yes. Chris. There isn't Chris. Yes.
I'm not really a morning person. I struggled out of bed this morning, but at the moment I have a little surge of excitement because we are back getting ready to ride the Otago Central Rail Trail. This was a whole heap of fun when I did it for the first time 10 years ago on the first SINZ tour, and I feel really looking forward to this day again. Today and tomorrow we're going to knock off the rail trail and end up heading towards the Roxburgh Gorge Trail. It's going to be fun.
Hey!
Hey there, what's up? Good morning, people from the world. We are Tiroiti, and we are at the beginning of the Otago Central Trail. It's an old train line that we are going in that direction for 80 and something more kilometer under the sun, straight line, no shade, so perfect day.
It turns out that Ranfurly Station is now the start of the interplanetary trail. Yes, the solar system has been recreated on a scale where 1 centimetre equals 1,000 kilometres with the sun at Ranfurly. I only realised this when we passed sculptures of the planets along the trail. So when you do ride the trail, it's worth checking out, starting at Ranfurly. There were other sculptures along the way too. When we met Waipiata Man, we decided he could be improved with the addition of a unicycle. With around 14,000 cyclists per year riding the trail from end to end, not counting others who only use parts of it, there is a good chance you will meet other cyclists too. While we already enjoyed one short train tunnel on the Alps to Ocean Trail, the Otago Rail Trail has a few really good ones too.
Here we got the light.
You can see here, filming tunnels is a thing which is really common.
The Otago Rail Trail covers 150 kilometres, so there is a wide variety of scenery on offer. With a town roughly every 10 kilometres, you can take it at your own pace. We stopped for the night at Lauda, but this tour just kept on getting better. Our time on the rail trail did remind us that New Zealand has a reputation for having wind.
Recording. Thomas, New Zealand's got a reputation for breezes. What do you think?
Love the breeze. It was maybe not the balance, but I'm a heavy tank, so I'm doing alright.
It was very windy. It was very, very windy. And I did this the whole time. It was very fun. I enjoyed all 20 kilometers of that.
Good job.
We still had beautiful scenery, and fortunately it was cooler again than it had been. This was not a bad thing. Fortunately this morning it was more of a tailwind than a crosswind, so the ride to Alexandra was a warm-up for the main event, Roxburgh Gorge Trail. This was so much fun that I've created a separate video just for this section of the trip. The river is an amazing green colour. The middle section of the trail is not yet complete, so you have to go for a ride in jet boats to reach the other end of the trail. Where is the downside of that? To view the other video, click on the link now.
I think they're all there. Oh, you better we'll get everything. We'll get everything going on.
In the meantime, here is a GoPro hyperlapse clip to give you some idea of the fun we had reaching Roxburgh.
All right, Thomas. Almost got you, but I fell twice.
The rest of the tour passed in the same manner. We followed the Clutha River some more. The river still looked beautiful. The trails were great riding. The scenery was brilliant. Probably the least scenic day of the tour was Danzi's Pass. However, it had its fan club too. With good altitude, you get great views. One more trip through the mountains, one more swim in a waterfall, and we were ready to wrap up the tour.
And so?
It's invigorating. Well, this is the morning of our final riding day together. We have a short ride ahead of us, a challengingly steep start to the day, but after that a cruisy ride up the coast. The weather is beautiful at the moment. There is a chance of rain later, so we thought we'll get off early and we'll enjoy the weather while we can. Somewhat sad to be finishing the tour. It's been a wonderful 2 weeks, but all good things must come to an end. Beautiful scenery like this, it's hard to leave.
When we arrived at the Octagon in Dunedin, Jen's cycle computer was showing 730 kilometres and 60 hours of riding. By two-wheel standards, that's a long time for the distance, but it does include a lot of stops for photos and videos. The first SINZ Unitour started in Dunedin with a climb up Baldwin Street, officially the steepest street in the world. So it seemed to be the perfect finish to the second SINZ Unitour to go to Baldwin Street and see if 10 years of riding practice improved our efforts to climb to the top. Unfortunately, the promised rain arrived as we started our attempts, so that can be my excuse.
In the middle, in the middle. Big wave to the fans.
That was fucked up. That shouldn't be illegal.
That's a big climb.
So we say goodbye to 730 kilometres of great trails and scenery. 900 if you include the lap around Lake Taupo. The only question in my mind is this: why are you still watching this video and not booking your flights to New Zealand so you can add your photo to the trails?